A kitten, limping due to the absence of a leg, appears in the central aisle. This little animal, instead of being frightened or looking for an exit, displays a determination that captures everyone's attention. It doesn't hesitate and walks with a strange conviction toward the altar, fixing its gaze on the statue of Our Lady of Sorrows, which stood beside the priest on the stage. What happens next is what makes the air in the church shudder, as the little animal reaches the saint's feet and leans against them. But before we continue, stop for a second and write in the comments the names of those loved ones, relatives and friends who are in need of a miracle and much prayer at this moment. All names will be added to our main prayer with a rosary at the end of this video. The initial silent and merely visual commotion rippled through the pews as the three-legged kitten completed its unusual journey to the center of spiritual attention. What was most striking was the deliberate manner of its steps, as if guided by an inner force completely oblivious to the noise, the voices, and the overwhelming presence of so many people. While most domestic animals would flee in panic from such a busy environment, this dark-furred kitten seemed utterly at ease, focused solely on its purpose at the altar. The church, in that instant, ceased to be merely a place of worship and became a living scene of expectation, with eyes fixed on the limping little creature. It moved between the pews and climbed the steps leading to the pulpit and presbytery with obvious difficulty due to its physical condition, but without hesitation, showing everyone that its arrival there was less an accident and more an instinctive pilgrimage. It was an immediate reminder to all who watched that faith and the search for solace can manifest themselves in ways that defy our logic and custom. The priest, before the kitten, acted with a wisdom and fraternity that cemented the reverence in the temple. He observed the animal, saw its fragile condition, and realized that this event, however unusual, should not be abruptly interrupted, but rather absorbed by the community as part of something greater. With a subtle but firm gesture, he signaled for no one to move or try to catch the animal, allowing it to complete its small, silent mission at the altar. This action by the priest demonstrated an openness of heart to the unusual and an understanding that holiness is not always manifested only in books or liturgical rules, but can appear concretely and tenderly in the most fragile of beings. The Mass rite continued, but now with a new, small participant on the stage, observing or perhaps simply searching for something there. The congregation absorbed this moment with renewed seriousness, knowing that the priest's welcoming of this defenseless creature was an example of unconditional love and acceptance. The kitten's choice to specifically approach the statue of Our Lady of Sorrows, rather than just stopping randomly in some corner, adds a layer of profound symbolism to the entire event. This image of Mary represents ultimate suffering, the mother who witnesses the pain and bears the affliction of the world. For a visibly fragile animal, with its physical condition reminiscent of daily struggle and lack of protection, seeking the feet of this figure is no coincidence. It touches the nerve of compassion and mercy. The climax came when it finally reached its destination and leaned against the base of the statue. He dragged himself to the cold pedestal, and there he let out a final silent groan and collapsed, seemingly entering a state of complete relaxation, as if he had finally reached the finish line of an exhausting journey and could now simply lay down his burden. The sight of the weak animal lying at the feet of Our Lady of Sorrows communicated to the entire church that the search for divine protection and peace is a need that transcends species, age, or any barrier. What followed the fainting spell wasn't a cry of surprise or panic, but a heavy, worried silence, as curiosity quickly turned to distress, the cat's absolute stillness. After a minute of the cat's complete immobility, the priest gently interrupted the rite, calmly walked to the edge of the stage, and knelt near the statue, confirming the fears of many. The animal wasn't moving. Its breathing was shallow and slow. It was truly unconscious. The scene, which until then had been captivating and tender, suddenly became serious, evoking compassion and help. The church realized that this was no longer a cute spectacle, but rather an urgent need for intercession, a physical reminder that there was real suffering all around, requiring immediate help. It was at this point that faith moved from the plane of observation to the plane of action. Faced with that scene of lifeless fragility, the community did not hesitate and immediately and fervently united in an act of pure fraternity, focusing the entire intention of the Mass on that little being. The priest addressed the microphone and, with his voice choked with emotion and seriousness, invited everyone present to kneel in spontaneous prayer for the little animal in need, incorporating the three-legged kitten into the main intention of the celebration, placing it in the hands of Our Lady and asking for its recovery and peace. The hundreds of people who filled the church bowed their heads and voices, forming a wave of energy and supplication focused on the life of that innocent being, a powerful demonstration that faith, when united in a clear purpose of love, has the capacity to transcend any formality. For long, solemn minutes, the church was transformed into a room of healing through prayer, creating an atmosphere of intense hope and spiritual warmth. And it was in the midst of the collective prayer, while the congregation still whispered their requests and the priest watched with affection and anxiety, that the final and most extraordinary event occurred, provoking an emotional murmur throughout the nave. The three-legged kitten began to stir. Slowly, it raised its head, twitched its ears, and then, in a gradual movement, stood on its paws, awakening from that deep, silent slumber. The kitten was awake, alive, and to everyone's surprise, it didn't run away. Instead, it sat calmly at the foot of the statue of Our Lady of Sorrows for the remainder of the Mass, witnessing the end of the rite, completely at peace. It was an incredible and serene ending, which raised the crucial question for all present. Had the kitten simply rested a little due to the heat and exhaustion, finding a safe place there? Or was that brief period of unconsciousness actually a true encounter with divine peace and the absolute rest he so desperately sought, culminating in a kind of physical and spiritual restoration at the feet of the saint? Regardless of the logical explanation, the effect felt was the same, an unshakable certainty that faith manifested itself there, and that support is always available to those who seek it with a humble heart. This incredible experience of the kitten offers us a valuable reflection for our daily lives, showing that faith doesn't need perfect environments or situations to act. Just as the wounded animal desperately sought the only place where it knew it would find refuge and rest, we, in our daily struggles, must also seek this constant refuge in prayer and peace. How often do we walk limping through life, carrying the weight of hurt, worry, and disappointment, and forget that true relief lies in the ability to surrender, to forgive wholeheartedly, to seek more conversions to the path of light, and to keep our faith ever burning, just as the fainting kitten surrendered its life into the hands of that safe place. We must make prayer our daily journey to have greater peace in our hearts, allowing ourselves this moment of divine rest that restores the soul. Don't leave your search for peace only for Sundays. Put faith into action at every step. And if you sense someone is in this search, suffering and needing to lie at the feet of Our Lady, don't waste time. Comment right now with the name of the person in need of prayer, so we can include them in our main intention with a rosary, just as the church did with the little kitten. It may have been a rest, a tired nap, but the truth is that the result for the community and the animal itself was a profound moment of renewed faith. After all, our prayer should be a surrender, where we lie down for a moment and let God lift us up. What do you think really happened there? Was it just the rest of a tired pet or the intervention of grace in an unusual place? Leave your sincere comment on the topic and what this story brought to your heart today. If this message touched you, like the video so it reaches more people in need of faith. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more curious stories where the power of faith is manifested. May God's peace be with you.